can be seated. Uh, Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary of Finance and the Economy to wrap up, please.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer, for the opportunity to wind up today's important debate. Madam Presiding Officer, please permit me at this time to thank the Chief Secretary and the rest of the team of secretaries and assistant secretaries for their support during the fiscal 2020 debate. I think today and following on from Monday has been another good day for Tobago, and I want to thank the rest of the team for their contribution not only to the debate, but as well as we seek to advance Tobago's development. Madam Presiding Officer, please permit me as well to thank the dream team that I have in the Division of Finance and the Economy, the team of technocrats, those persons who have worked tirelessly with me day and night to help craft a world-class, well-put-together, fairly comprehensive, all-embracing fiscal package of the Tobago House of Assembly for the next financial year. Madam Presiding Officer, as well, I want to thank the Chief Secretary, the Chief Administrator, Administrator of Finance, Administrator in the Division of Education. Ms. Sherilyn moved around so much, but to thank them for staying the distance with us. And as the Chief Admin was reminding me during the days during her stewardship in the Division of Finance, being here until midnight was the norm. But no, colleagues, I will not keep you until midnight, so don't get too nervous. I also want to thank the rest of the technocrats across the Assembly for their support as well as we bring the curtains down to today's budget debate and as we fulfill our responsibilities as outlined in the Tobago House of Assembly Act. But Madam Presiding Officer, before I wind up the debate, I just want to quote, with your leave, from the budget statement for 2014, my first budget statement, and the date was the 27th of June 2013. I'm quoting the wind-up, the wrap-up on the Thursday of June, because, Madam Presiding Officer, I listened intently, and given the input from all the divisions of the Assembly, the technocrats, the input and the professionalism that we put into the budget to craft this document, and all the technocrats and the secretaries and assistant secretaries working with their teams in the various divisions, we treat the work of the people of Tobago seriously. And in terms of working hard and putting and crafting the document and the responses together, to come and hear the rebuttal from the members opposite, it's really disheartening. It's not only disheartening professionally, it's disheartening to the people of Tobago as we seek to develop this island. And to hear some of the statements that have been proffered and suggestions, some of them, and most of it, it was deceptive, disingenuous, and dishonest. And Madam Presiding Officer, I am normally very calm, composed, and very genteel, but I think I had to put that on record. And I want to start quoting this from the from the budget debate back then. This was my first budget debate. And it says, Madam Presiding Officer, and I'm quoting, "Some have attempted to criticize the budget, by suggesting there's a sameness between this budget and of the years past, and to some extent they're right. The context for this budget and for those of previous years are the same, because we in the People's National Movement, we have a plan. We are guided by a socio-economic development plan, and in fact, we have two complementary plans. We have the Comprehensive Economic Development Plan for Tobago 2.0, redoubling the efforts, and we also have the 2013 manifesto, that is the PNM manifesto. And I continue to quote, our budgets are premised on these two plans and sense-checked or checked through a series of consultations with the people of Tobago. That is why I'm proud to say that the various non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, business and civil organizations, or dearest young people, religious bodies, and other stakeholders who were consulting in the lead-up to this 2013-2014 budget statement. It goes on to say, Mr. Presiding Officer, because we know where we are going and why, each year's budget statement becomes a step in a strategic staircase that would lead us to the achievement of the goals of these plans that I mentioned before. Mr. Presiding Officer, it goes on to say, and I'm quoting, gone are the days when budgets are conceived as goodie bags and gold magnets. We in the Tobago House of Assembly have been given an overwhelming mandate, and we are responding to the people's mandate by providing vision, leadership, direction, and implementing the goals and the plans. It goes on to say, Madam President Officer, and I quote, each year, as I said in the budget statement, we take stock of our development efforts, and we adjust accordingly, as we move confidently along a defined development trajectory. Simply stated, our goal has been to develop Tobago by lifting the standards of our people, and as we seek to make a greater contribution to the national GDP. Madam Presiding Officer, that was 2013, my budget statement. And if persons are saying the budget statement sounds like the same as last year, budget statements generally have a common structure. If it's premised on a socio-economic development plan, you will see a common thread as we account to the people and we take stock of our progress year on year. So that is why the structure remains the same. We are reporting on what we have done in the past, and because we have a plan, and as we are shifting gears now, we have the medium-term planning framework, you will see common projects, common themes as we update and report to the people. So as I've heard in the past from the member opposite, as she normally, posits her SMART goals and specific, measurable, I thought this, this is simple strategic management practice. So I was thinking that, I would have, should have understood the nature of the beast. But suffice to say, Madam Presiding Officer. So they made claims about the budget being vigilant, etc., and so on. But if what we saw today is an example of leadership, is an example of governance, is an example of what poses as an alternative, let me say most definitely that the people of Tobago will reject that form of governance in due course come January 2021. Because, Madam Presiding Officer, we roll out our development plans in a structured way. Since we came into office, CDP 2. The first iteration, We took a review, we came up with the CDP 2.0. And when we were drafting the medium-term planning framework, it necessitated us reviewing the CDP document. So that is how we formalize the medium term. But as we move forward now, what is required for us is to meet with stakeholders, review the CDP 2.0, and as we roll out the medium-term planning framework, we can see how far we have moved along the development trajectory. We can look at the challenges and our constraints, and as we roll out this medium-term planning framework, we will be meeting and having extensive consultations with all our stakeholders, the young people, the faith-based organizations, the churches, all the interest groups, so that they can have an input, that they can critique the draft document, and they can play their part as we deepen the democratic process, so that the people of Tobago can have their say, even as we craft the formal planning document moving forward, Madam Presiding Officer. So a couple of things as well. And I said, Madam Presiding Officer, about being dishonest and disingenuous, because the question has to be asked, Madam Presiding Officer, that if someone intentionally misleads this House, knowingly and deliberately peddles false information as fact, then we should be thinking, Madam Presiding Officer, and if that person unintentionally misleading this House is a grave charge, and we should hold the person responsible, and if needs be, Madam Presiding Officer, have them brought before the Committee of Privileges. Because when we prepare the budget, we, in a very painstaking process, as we prepare the budget, we double-check, triple-check, review the numbers again to ensure that we put out accurate and up-to-date data. But what did we see this morning, Madam Presiding Officer? As I am aware, and we're all aware, that the Central Statistical Office is the official repository for reporting national data and national statistics. So when I came, we spoke about the CSO data as it relates to unemployment. But the minority leader, in his attempt to put forward GDP estimates for Tobago, was quoting the CSO. The CSO has not produced GDP estimates for Tobago in the longest while. So I'm asking, where did he get his data? Was this a deliberate attempt by the minority leader to mislead this House, deliberately to misquote economic data, to score cheap political points? And the question has to be asked. And there might be charges and questions to ask. Additionally, Madam Presiding Officer, if you recall, in 2017, he tried the same theatrics, taking part of our GDP data and drawing another part from another document and subtracting the two, and then he claimed that the economy of Tobago declined. We are seeing a similar pattern today. And when I rose on a point of order and challenged the number, he was trying to get clarification from the councillor, and they could not give us any justifiable answers that the figures actually came from CSO. And I had my people double check it. And again, the councillor quoted that the assembly spent over $50 billion. When we double check the figures, inaccurate, misleading, dishonest, and disingenuous. But Madam Presiding Officer, we have seen the behavior before. We saw it in 2017, we saw it in 2018, and we're seeing it again. They come to this House unprepared, not really willing to undertake serious debate. And just a cursory glance, a review of the THA Act and previous budget debates would give them a greater appreciation to the process and to what we're doing. So to say we should ask for $2.2 billion, but on the same breath come and say that Tobago needs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, what you think we're doing? And instead of evaluating the program and policies that we put forward, they cherry pick a couple of points, dissect them, and then accuse us of either not acting in a transparent manner, accuse us of not caring about Tobago, and then accuse the Assembly of malfeasance. But I want to say, Madam Presiding Officer, that this budget document can stand scrutiny, and I was welcoming greater scrutiny and intellectual debate and intellectual banter. But I didn't get it from the members opposite, so I have to say thank you to the members on my team, to the Chief Secretary, for in a consistent manner taking the work of the people of Tobago very seriously, and I must commend them for that. Madam Presiding Officer, THA Act 40, Section 41 mandates us to come and outline the estimates, not only the estimates, but the work program of the Assembly as we move forward. But what we instituted in 2013, Madam Presiding Officer, was to come back to the House of each year, back to the House following the reading of the national budget. And that is not required by law. But we put that in place as in terms of being a fiscally responsible administration, and as well to deepen the democratic process and to report to the people of our plans and programs. And we started that in 2013, and the Chief Secretary has continued in the same vein. And what does that mean? What will that result in? What will happen is that on 2 occasions, we will come back to the House again and report to the people of Tobago. So we have a double reporting process as we continue to roll out our plans and as we continue to report to the people of Tobago. Additionally, we submit monthly expenditure reports in this honorable House. We submitted the financial statements in January of this year. Coming up later in the year, we will be reviewed by Moody's and as well by the IMF in the Article 4 consultation. We are transitioning to a full accrual system under the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. We're working with the Ministry of Finance as it relates to the IFMIS program, and we have introduced and rolling out the ACH system as we seek to modernize the Assembly's financial and accounting architecture. What am I saying, Madam Presiding Officer? We on this side are open to full transparency in not only the governance, but in terms of how we manage the affairs of the Assembly. So this issue about transparency, and we want to hide, and we are open for business. We are open book, and we are meeting with the Auditor General's Department, and I want to reiterate this point as we deal with the outstanding financial statements of the Tobago House of Assembly. And I want to treat with a point as well about the irresponsible statements that people are making about Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly. You know, it reminds me of someone courting a young lady, very attractive, beautiful young lady. But they continue to ill-speak all about the place. You know this girl so, this girl like this, negative comments. And then obviously, people will tell the young lady about the comments that the young man is making. And then he goes to propose to her. She will ask, me? You serious? Are all those negative comments that you have made about me? You want us to be in a relationship? And any wise, right-thinking young woman will turn around and walk as far away as possible from someone like that. And it's the same thing about the approach of the minority side and the approach to the things related to Tobago. Because if you listen to them too long, Madam Presiding Officer, it doesn't seem like Tobago is open for business. It seems like Tobago is a basket case that only the minority bench can fix. But Madam Presiding Officer, I've been around and I've been in town, not so long, but what I can say is that this administration and this People's National Movement administration is the best vehicle and the only vehicle at this time to advance the island's development. And under the astute leadership of, we will get the job done. Madam Presiding Officer, a couple points, and then I will wrap up. But you realize, Madam Presiding Officer, that when I made a statement in the House on Monday, very direct and very deliberate, with respect to the friends of the minority leader, and to ask him to appeal to his friends in Trinidad for their support in Bill for International Self-Government, you realize he did not deny it? You realize that in his statement, his 1-hour crash landing statement, that he never rebutted my remarks? Because just as Councillor Devines was a witness to the camaraderie and the love and the chummy behavior, myself, so am I. So if by chance you're in Trinidad tomorrow and you're around a place called Tong, around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, just go and just sit and have a drink by the bar. And as you by the bar and you watch the love and the togetherness and the open arms, and come sit with us. Come, we're having dinner, we're having caucus. I was there as well post-elections when we had the swearing-in at Napa, and post-Napa we were having a meal, and we sat and that was 2015, and to now it continues, Madam Presiding Officer. So, you know, the member for Palatuvia in a very boisterous manner spoke about race baiting. No, sir. We're not racist on this side. If you look at our party and the national and how we operate, I have friends of all races, all class, all creeds of person. I'm an international citizen living in Tobago. And I respect all creeds, all cultures, so please. But however, the important question that must be asked, Madam Presiding Officer, is that we need the support of everyone in this House for us to ensure that Tobago achieves internal self-government and that that bill is passed in the House. And I reiterate and I repeat my call for members opposite, as they have agreed to do, to appeal, tell their leader to appeal to his friends in Trinidad to come out and support the bill. As it relates to a point on meeting with the banks, Madam Presiding Officer, I want to inform the honourable member that we have met with the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago here in Tobago, the Chief Secretary and myself, and a team of the Assembly. And all the points relating to this, we discussed greater support for the private sector. We discussed as well financing loans to contract officers. And what the Bankers Association indicated was that your salary and your job security was only, being a contract officer does not qualify you for loan financing. They look at other things, your length of tenure in the job, your qualifications, what profession you're in, other parameters. And we are working with them as well to ensure that our public officers can qualify for loans, especially given my background in financial education, to have persons qualify for loans for productive assets, assets that would appreciate over the long term, for example, a mortgage, land, a home. As you are aware as well, I was part of the technocrats in the division when we introduced the same FCB program, that loan, that savings program towards home ownership. And thank you for the reminder. But we have not forgotten our young people, and that is why in the Division of Finance we are working on on a PPP model that will accelerate the rollout of housing in Tobago. And by the next time I come to this house in November and report, as we look towards the recalibration of our budget, we report in greater detail the completion of the business case and how we roll out the execution of over 200 houses for Tobagonians, and how we will execute the other developments using the Assembly's land bank to ensure that we provide homes, affordable housing, and lands to Tobagonians. Madam Presiding Officer, I think I want to end there, and just to thank my colleagues as well. Pardon? You want me to go on? Mr. Pitt said that I should go on. So let me thank Mr. Pitt. But I want to thank my colleagues for their support as we continue to develop Tobago. And I must thank members of my electoral district, Backlet, Mount St. George, for their support as well, and for the privilege of leading them. And as we continue to roll out our model community initiative, I want to thank my colleagues around the horseshoe for their support for a number of projects. Secretary Councillor Devines, as he knows, I will be behind him with respect to paving and getting work done in Backlet, Mount St. George. So thank you, sir, for in the past for paving oil fields, not oil fields, sorry, but Friends Field, streets of Scarborough, and we still have some work in the vicinity of the number 1 Village Street along Windward Wood to undertake. And then we have projected before this financial year ends, Cart Road and the Recreation Road to pave. I also want to thank my colleague, Hayden Spencer, Assemblyman Spencer, for the support on the food production, the Access Road program, to provide support for the farmers in the electoral district, the farmers in Mount St. George. They are also happy about that. And we're looking forward as well to the support of the revitalization of the Hope Farm. That will be an exciting project.
You have about 3 minutes left.
3 minutes? Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. We're also looking at the recycling project at Mount St. George, and I want to thank my colleague as well. That will seriously reduce the size of the landfill and, help us engage in recycling. Additionally, the recreation grounds, construction of retaining walls, and we're looking forward with excitement to the second round of paving. Madam Presiding Officer, I have a couple of points that I want to touch on. But I believe it's really important for the edification of the House, and I won't be long. The member spoke about that he's not seeing the University of Tobago in the estimates. I want to direct him to page number 81 of the recurrent expenditure. 10 million, there is provision for the University of Tobago. Also, we made provisions for THTI that they will continue, and until we amalgamate them, you would see provisions there. You will see we instituted a new body that I referenced in the budget as well. Provision is made there as well for the University of Tobago. First tranche is $10 million, but the University of Tobago has been provisioned and has received the approval of the Executive Council, and funding and all the necessary estimates have been provisioned for. As it relates to the bill, somebody spoke, they didn't know when the bill was tabled. Again, section 710 of the budget statement, that is outlined there, that in March 2018 the bill was tabled before the House. We spoke about health tourism and so on last year. That was a central point. And we spoke about executing the cancer care plant at the Cancer Care Treatment Center using the PPP model. And Madam Presiding Officer, I wanted to talk about sandals and FDI and so on, but I think, Madam Presiding Officer, I want to encourage the members opposite. And, you know, the leader is not here.
Member, your speaking time has expired.
Yeah, give me a couple minutes.
Anyone willing to move the motion?
Do you have to go to the committee stage? Don't come, give me 5 minutes now.
Presiding officer, I would like to move that speed down or member be extended back from the stage.
Come on, let's be serious.
Members, the question is that the speaking time be
At midnight,
extended
sir.
by a further 10 minutes. All in favor? Any against? Member, your speaking time has been extended by only 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. And thank you, colleagues. It's not midnight. The night is still young. Madam Presiding Officer, I spoke about the response from the members, and I want to encourage them, the two young professionals, not to depart from your intellectual moorings. And I want to encourage you that you have a responsibility as young professionals, as young intellectuals, to continue along the tradition of research, rigor, and debate. And that's why I make this statement: everything rises and falls on leadership. And leadership is not only someone at the head, but you have leadership right around, for example, the 360-degree leader. And you'll have to demonstrate that leadership in preparing, in responding, in researching, and in your deliberation and your dissemination of information. As I greet my colleague, Secretary Jomo, Assemblyman Jomo Pitt, young people are watching, the nation is watching, and persons in the international community, they are watching, and everything that comes up with Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly, it's amazing that how immediately they pick up on things, and you get emails to clarify comments, sometimes some irresponsible comments that people make concerning Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly. So I would just urge, please, be responsible with your comments, and at times you may have to constrain your leader. But Madam Presiding Officer, it was the economist Joseph Stiglitz who said that development is about transforming the lives of the people, not just transforming economies. And so, Madam Presiding Officer, what we have done, I believe we have achieved both. And this administration is passionate about creating an enabling environment to foster economic growth. We are also just as passionate about the holistic development of our human capital. And Madam Presiding Officer, a definition of advancing is to move forward in a very purposeful way. And to do this, Madam Presiding Officer, it will require shifts in our thinking and changes in our energy. And this can lead us to purposefully move forward with the development of Tobago. And so I want to assure the people of Tobago and all the members of this Honorable House, members opposite, members and colleagues of this administration, that we will continue the economic transformation of the Tobago economy while positively impacting the lives of all Tobagoanians and advancing our development agenda. With these views, Madam Presiding Officer, I beg to move. Thank you. committee stage. All right. Madam Presiding Officer, as we close, I beg to move, and I also beg to move that we revert to the committee stage, where we will, by line item, make the final deliberations on the estimates and expenditure of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Members, the question proposed is that the House now moves into the committee stage, and therefore we are requesting all of the cameras to be now off, and that the public, members of the public, be excused so that you all can go into committee stage. The sitting is now being adjourned to go into committee stage.
All right, take care. All right, bye-bye. Chief Admin, take care.